Hello, hello, and happy Monday. Ugh, it is Monday.
Monday.
No, said nobody ever. Monday, August 4th, 2020, 2025. Because we're barreling through the year. So you are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI Show for short, because we bring you way too much information. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. We're live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So please be sure to hit the like and the follow button, the subscribe button, smash the thumbs up. That goes a long way to helping our little show continue to grow. So on today's show, we'll be talking about it.
Share it.
Share it. Yeah, that would be really helpful if you can share it on your social media. There's an easy share button. God bless you. So on today's show, we'll hit on a couple of topics before we bring in our guest today, Dr. Reese Halter. He's a I cannot talk today. He's a conservation biologist and author to talk about these raging wildfires in the Grand Canyon. Another hotspot happening in Utah. So basically, the driest canyon areas of the western part of the U.S. And because there's this ongoing forever drought from out west. I don't know what can be done about that.
And here.
Here on the
New
East
York
Coast?
City New York City's been in a drought for several years now.
You guys are in a drought?
Oh yeah, well,
really?
for example, it never rains here anymore, and basically there's no rain in the forecast for the next 10 days here in New York. That's typical. Yeah.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. We are not in a drought here in the DC metro. We've been getting a lot of rain actually. So so we'll be having Dr. Reese on towards the back half of the show. But first, we will cover the drama over redistricting, because I can't talk today. Over in Texas, there was a big political stunt that's making waves. And I think, Ted, that's going to lead to, I think this is a precursor to what we're going to see in 2026 for the midterms. We'll get you the details on that. Then we're going to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell getting shipped off to Camp Cupcake over in Bryan, Texas, where she's, got a dorm now and she can go out for jogs. It's minimal security prison.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with that? You know who's there, Ted, at this particular prison in Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth Holmes, is that her name? Elizabeth,
that's right.
She's
one of my one of my psycho crushes.
Oh, Ted, you and these crazies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I think she's super cute, except she's too young. But yeah.
No, she's over 40.
Yeah, I'm 61, man. She's too young.
Well, I mean, yeah, well, I don't know. Over 40,
I know you. I mean, it's legal and all that, but it's not advisable. Let's put it that way.
Well, I don't know. I would say over 40, it's kind of fair game.
Oh, it's totally fair game. It's just not a good idea.
Maybe not the best idea, but yeah. I think you're done growing after age 40. I think you're at a good place that age isn't so.
You're probably working on your first divorce.
After 40, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you've been through enough life that you can date somebody that is plus 20.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't advise going minus 20 if you're 40, but
no, for sure. Mm-hmm.
No, but Elizabeth Holmes, I think, is still married, and sadly for her, I mean, she has a little kid, but she's one of the inmates there at this minimal security.
I'd love to talk to her. I bet she's interesting.
Oh, I'm sure she is. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about this whole lawsuit stemming from Los Angeles and other California cities suing the Trump administration over ICE.
Mm-hmm.
And the Trump administration has suffered another setback because of these lawsuits, and a federal judge
sad.
Basically saying, yeah, you really can't just go in and just scoop everybody up. Just scoop them
There's
up.
also news that we haven't put in here. I know you didn't, and I can see why you didn't put it in. No, I'm not blaming you, but it's personal. Dave Edmunds, the legendary new wave rocker, has had a
Oh.
major health crisis, a major heart attack, and may be about to die.
Oh.
I'm a huge fan for people who are fans of punk and new wave. He was all over the charts in the late 70s when he did 4 or 5 records with Nick Lowe. If you look at all the really classic Nick Lowe records, and Dave Edmunds albums from the late 70s, they were on each other's albums. They did an album together called Rock Pile with the song Teacher Teacher. And his biggest hit was a cover of I Hear You Rockin'. But basically, he was a rock and roll classicist who did really classy recordings of rock. So that's kind of like the best way to describe it. Great songs like
How old is he? I
like
didn't
the
know
original version of Girls Talk, covered by
Yeah.
Elvis Costello, by Dave Edmunds.
How old is Dave Edmunds?
Dave is probably
like 80?
He's probably pushing 80.
Yeah, I didn't know he was that old. But
well, I mean,
Lonnie Anderson.
His first album came out in 1968, right? I mean, he was an old hippie blues guy, white blues guy who was in a band called Love Sculpture. Some people consider Dave Edmunds to be one of the finest guitarists in rock and roll. Maybe some would argue the finest. I wouldn't go that far in a world with Jimi Hendrix, but I definitely.
I didn't know he was that old. Well, we also just lost Lonnie Anderson.
True.
Right?
WKRP in Cincinnati.
Is Burt Reynolds still alive? Her ex-husband?
I don't know. I believe not.
But anyway, all the people, if you're based on the demographic data that we've seen from all the different platforms, most of the listeners and viewers, Ted, are pretty much in our age group, right? Like they're all Gen Xers. So they would know all of these names that we're talking about. That we're losing them. We're losing them. The people that we grew up listening to and watching on TV, and I guess you're just kind of there. In fact, I just found out sad news last night that a guy I grew up with back home, our birthdays were one day apart. I don't know the details yet, but died. I had a friend die last year. I mean, we're all in our 40s.
It's disturbing when it's someone your own age. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never like to hear that. Like so-and-so, age 61. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. This is, people in their 40s back home. This is last year I lost 2 friends in their 40s. This is the first of, it's horrible to think of. And I'm like, we're only in our mid 40s. Like, should this be happening? Lonnie Anderson's like she was like 80 years old-ish, 80 something. So I get that.
I had gross thoughts when I heard that she died. I was like, I wonder what her breasts look like now.
Oh my God, Ted.
Sorry, I'm just telling the truth.
Right, because when you were a young boy, you probably watched the show and you WK. What is it?
And it was like va-va-voom.
I know, and then it was stiletto heels and.
Yeah.
I know. I get it. You're a dude. I get it. Yeah. I know. All right. So, where were we? Then late at the end of the show, we're not going to be talking about boobs. We'll be talking about like actual, literally a firestorm.
Yeah, the firestorm in Arizona and elsewhere.
Yeah. Literally, like, I did not know these things, Ted.
By the way,
that we can
today,
create their own
New York
atmosphere.
City is suffering from Canadian wildfire smoke.
Oh, are you guys again?
Mm-hmm.
Are the Canadians going after you guys again?
They are. Yeah. It's Trudeau's revenge.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, but he's got Katy Perry now. That's
true. He's walking on sunshine.
Maybe. All right, let's get to the news.
Mm-hmm. We must do it quickly because our guest is coming on soon. All right. Over 50 Texas Democrats ran away from the state of Texas. I don't blame them because I don't like Texas. In an attempt to prevent Republicans from holding a vote in the state house on a new congressional district map. So the way this all went down was a little while ago, Donald Trump basically heard that, like, if Usually redistricting happens every 10 years after the census, right? The most recent census was 2020. The next one's 2030. So normally the parties have to wait until 5 years from now. But there's no law against it. So with the GOP poised to lose control of the House of Representatives next year due to declining Republican polls for Trump and so on, they came up with an idea. Let's do redistricting now, 5 years early. And that way we can pick up probably as many as 5 seats if we get rid of some black seats in the Texas State House. And so that's what they came up with. They were like, well, we can add 5 seats and that'll give the GOP some wiggle room if they lose fewer than that next year. The Democrats heard about that and they decided to do something that they did a few years ago. You might remember the runaway Democrats. Well, they're the runaway Democrats again. And this time they have taken off to places like Chicago and inexplicably Albany. I'm not sure why they went there, but anyway, the tactic here is without them, even though the Republicans control the state house, they can't do any business because they don't have a quorum. And under parliamentary procedure, you have to have a minimum number of people present in a parliamentary body in order to have a vote. So that's all a complicated way to say that basically it's like, okay, you guys can do what you want, but you're going to need us to be around to do what you want. So we're going to be gone and you're going to have to find us, blah, yeah, 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 yeah. All right. So Texas AG Ken Paxton said he's going to hunt down the Democrats and said they should be arrested. The Democrats said that there's no authority whatsoever for them to do that. And anyway, that there's no way the governor of Texas can send state troopers to Chicago. That's obviously true.
But what about when they return?
When they could be arrested when they return, of course. It's hard to say what they would be charged with. I don't know that this is illegal. The governor said
traveling.
Yeah, travel ban. Yeah, maybe they're pregnant. Remember the abortion travel ban?
That's right.
Said that they'll remove the missing Democrats from membership in the Texas House. That would be pretty fascist, right? I mean, you can certainly criticize what the Democrats are doing by saying you guys are impeding the normal democratic process, small d democratic process. But if the Republicans were seriously to remove 50 members of the Texas State House, that would effectively be a fascist coup in the state of Texas. You'd be subverting the will of the people. These people are elected officials. The voters of their respective districts sent them to Austin, right? I mean,
but why did they escape to Chicago, and why are they hanging out with J.B. Pritzker?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they just think Chicago is a nice city to visit. In the dead of summer? They're in Texas, remember?
Well, that's true. But look here, why are they hanging out having a press conference with J.B. Pritzker unless Pritzker thinks he's going to get himself on the national stage?
I suspect I know why. Because basically the main threat that the Republicans have is they've imposed a $500 per member per fine, a $500 fine per member per day on each of these runaway Democrats. So basically they're going broke, right? Well, what is J.B. Pritzker? J.B. Pritzker is a multi-millionaire. He's super rich. So he could pay the tab here and say, don't worry, guys. It's all on me. Don't worry. $500 a day ain't nothing to me.
I think he's part of the stunt. I think he's inserting himself as part of the stunt because he has designs for 2028.
Now, I don't know why they're in Albany, presumably also hanging out with Governor Kathy Hochul, who, even though we don't talk about her presidential aspirations, she may have some.
Does she have any? Really?
She may have some. I
don't think she'd get very far.
She might be keeping it on the down low. But anyway, I don't know. I just seriously don't know. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Personally, I always like to say that Democrats who claim they can't do anything against Donald Trump could do something similar to this at the national level. They could, in many ways, throw all sorts of parliamentary wrenches into the works and deny the House of Representatives the ability to conduct business in Washington. So, for example, when Hakeem Jeffries said, "What do you want? They have the majority. There's nothing we can do." That's funny because when Republicans are in the minority, the Democrats are like, well, we have to work with the Republicans. It's like, yeah, but you control the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court, and the White House. No, but without the Republicans, they gum everything up. Democrats can gum things up too. This Texas example is proof of that.
Yeah, well, you know, once you get to the national level, when you're on Capitol Hill, you get weak sauce. It's like you just
Yeah, you get pussy juice, and not the good kind.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's rough. I think what's going on here is that it's, people are going to ask, well, what's the point of this, right? I mean, they can't run away forever. At some point, they're going to have to go back home to Austin, and they're going to have to show up. It's a stunt. But it should be pointed out that the last time something like this happened, that they brought so much attention to what the Republicans in Texas were doing that it basically, the Republicans didn't get their way. The public didn't approve of it. So I think the idea here is to get the voters of Texas to focus on it and say, look, y'all are cheating. This is sleazy.
Y'all are fixing to cheat.
And y'all are racist. And this is racist. I mean, by definition, it's racist. In fact, we know because there's internal memoranda from inside the GOP that said we want to get rid of Black and minority voters because they vote Democratic. So we're going to get rid of them and get rid of their districts and their seats. So look, I love that you put these maps up here, right? Look at these districts. I mean, I know, okay, yeah, you're from Southeast Asia. So to you, these might look like normal shapes of countries. But remember, those were drawn by French cartographers who are now causing wars 100 years later. So similarly, look at these. I mean, oh my God, look at these districts though, right? I mean, look at District 2 there. In either the proposed or the current one. I mean, you can't tell me. I don't know anything about Harris County, Texas.
What weird shapes.
You cannot tell me though, however, that like the people who are on one end of that district have anything culturally or politically in common with the people on the other side of that district, right? I mean,
and why are they renumbering them?
They're gerrymandered because because there's population changes. So they're eliminating some seats. So like if the population of Texas
area, do you see that?
If the population of Texas goes up, they're entitled to more seats, and vice versa. Yeah.
This, like the current District 18 is shaped like a C, and the part in the middle,
it's a donut almost. It goes all the way around.
Almost, but then the green part in the middle, and obviously because I'm a female, I think it looks like a uterus and fallopian tubes and ovaries. Is
Harris County Houston or Dallas? I don't remember, but
anyway. I think that looks like a Houston area because it's near the water.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, so that's Houston, and so that must be. I don't know Houston.
I don't know
my friend Nick. I should ask my friend Nick Anderson of the Houston Chronicle what this is all about. But anyway, the point is this is gerrymandering. We should move on. We have our guest coming on. Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted.
Ghislaine,
whatever.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Also a cutie, but a chomo. The convicted.
Oh my God, Ted!
You're not telling me she's not cute. She's cute. She's not sexy though. She's cute. The convicted sex trafficker and longtime associate of Jeffrey Epstein has been quietly, well, maybe not so quietly, but has been moved from federal prison in Florida over to a Club Fed low security facility in Texas. That, according to the Bureau of Prisons. The transfer follows a move by her attorneys to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn her conviction. At the same time, she's seeking a pardon or commutation from Trump in exchange for her blabbing and talking and cooperating about the Epstein files. She spent 2 days last week talking to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche at a courthouse near the Tallahassee prison where she was. Now, the family of the late Virginia, I can never pronounce her name.
Giuffre.
Thank you. That the transfer is part of an undisclosed deal between the DOJ and the Trump administration. Gee, you think? In recent days, they've expressed worry that Trump and presidentially appointed leaders in the DOJ are trying to silence her without receiving any input from the accusers who say that she and Epstein sexually abused them. Okay, so I know what's going on here. I thought about it.
Okay, tell me.
Basically, the deal is like this. It's so what is Trump's narrative? Trump's narrative is, well, we were going to open all the files. When we got into the files, however, me and Pam Bondi got in there and we looked, and it turned out that really there were no rich and powerful men who were trafficked at all, who got underage ladies. So the only real perpetrators were Jeffrey and Ghislaine, right?
Ghislaine.
Ghislaine,
So no, wait.
Ghislaine's actually better, maybe. But anyway, but like,
because you like saying Jizz.
I do.
Lane.
I do. Like to say
Ghislaine.
But
like,
but wait. So Ghislaine. So let me finish my theory. So Ghislaine. So basically, that's the narrative, right? Well, MAGA world doesn't believe that, because
of course,
for the simple reason that it can't be
for
true.
Logical reasons.
Yeah, because it can't be true. And now a lot of Democrats are having fun with it too. So what's the answer here? The only loose end here is her, and they can't get her to suicide herself. So what's the next best thing? You got to get her to confirm that story. That's what you got to do. Now, what does she want in exchange for having that story confirmed? Well, she wants to be released, right? So
yeah, of course.
She'll be released in exchange for, or released or given some kind of sweetheart deal in exchange for the following. She gives her depositions and she says, it was all Jeffrey. There was no one else. It was not
she just
Donald
needs to
J.
close
Trump.
the hole.
It
close
was
the
not
gap.
Bill Clinton. It was no one else. It was just Jeffrey. If she
Jeffrey
basically she
did all of that to all the girls.
She knows what they want to hear, and she has to say it. And then she has to never say anything about this or maybe anything else ever again. That's the deal.
I totally agree. Okay. We all know that is bullshit. However, Trump needs to quell the tidal wave of the fracture, the huge tsunami of his own followers, of his own base ahead of the 2026 midterms. This is a party thing. It's a Hail Mary to try to save the party ahead of 2026. Ghislaine's going to, I can't believe, Ted, that her lawyers haven't already gotten her off like entirely scot-free, because if she's convicted for sex trafficking, and so was Epstein even before all of this, if they are traffickers, who are they trafficking to? And if there is no list and there is no crime, then Ghislaine should walk free. She's almost walking free. If you look at the video here from who am I looking at? I think the New York Post. So Camp Byron. This is the New York Post sent their photographers there, and this is what you're looking at. I don't know if these are inmates or prison workers, but it's minimum security.
Those are inmates.
Why are they wearing scrubs? But okay, it's minimum security. Minimum security. The women are allowed to go for jogs. They have dorm rooms. So this, compared to what Ghislaine was facing in New York, this is a country club. Like I said at the top of the show, Elizabeth Holmes is there, and other, like, one of the Desperate Housewives. I can't remember. I don't follow the show, but one of them, it was like white collar crime, like tax fraud or something. I don't know, but that's the type of inmate that's there. Here's where things get sketchy for me of why she shouldn't have been shipped here, because in the specific rules or charter or whatever you call it for this federal prison, it says it's for non-violent offenders. If you're convicted of child abuse and human trafficking, that's considered a violent offense.
Is that considered violent? Okay.
Yeah. So, especially as it pertains to minors. So technically, she shouldn't be qualified to be here. And Virginia Giuffre,
she's not going to be there very long. Her family. This is typically a path toward release. It's a transitional.
I think so.
All right, and
I
okay,
think so.
but
And Dr. Reese says he's running a couple minutes late, so he says he'll be there.
perfect. Robbie, put up that ad. In the meanwhile,
Yeah, so we'll
I'll
pause
go
there.
up
We
and
got a word from our sponsor.
okay, but well, we're going to pause in a bit here because we have to see the ad first in order
Yeah,
before we can
we have
read
to,
it.
we have to put
All
that
right,
up.
the Trump administration suffered another setback late Friday. Oh, here's the ad. Okay, we'll tell you about that later. Okay, ready to level up your game? AIM Controllers is where custom meets unbeatable value, and right now it's the best deal of the year. We start with official Sony and Xbox controllers, fully compatible with console and PC. No functionality lost. Then you go wild with custom features, smart bumpers, paddles, grips, stick height, custom buttons, even design your own PS5 snap panels. And here's the part no one else is doing: lifetime warranty on all modified parts. That's right, lifetime. What other company does that? Exactly. Normally, a fully loaded setup could run you $400, but during our one price promo, it's just $209 or 182 euros, no matter how many features you add. Use code RUMBLE at checkout and lock it in. This is your sign. Go to AIM, that's AIM, controllers.com, and build the last controller you'll ever need. All right, the Trump administration suffered a setback on Friday when an appeals court upheld a decision that temporarily prevents federal agents from making immigration arrests in the LA region without probable cause, in other words, ethnic profiling. Three-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, that's up there in San Francisco, it's a liberal court, affirmed a lower court's finding that the raids appeared to exclusively rely on a person's race and other factors like speaking Spanish. Good thing I never learned Spanish properly. I tried, it just never took. The panel's decision merely allows a temporary restraining order that had been imposed by the lower court to stay in place. For now, the far-reaching operations that began in June as the case proceeds through the courts are on hold. Judge I don't know how you pronounce that, it's M-A-A-M-E, Frimpong, a federal district court in Los Angeles, scheduled a hearing in late September as she weighs a longer lasting who knows, order known as a preliminary injunction. The appellate judges wrote that the plaintiffs are likely to succeed in showing that federal agents made arrests based on how they looked, how people spoke, and where they lived or worked. In other words, they didn't have specific knowledge that these people were here illegally. They just profiled them. Civil rights groups led by the ACLU of Southern California, parenthetically, fuck you, ACLU of Southern California, for pussing out on the LA Times case, and public counsel filed suit on July 2nd accusing the Trump administration of unconstitutional sweeps since early June. Nearly 3,000 people have been arrested. In their 61-page ruling, the judges said it was likely the arrests were made without reasonable suspicion. They added that because their arrests were part of a pattern of officially sanctioned behavior, they're likely to recur unless the courts intervene. The city and county of LA and 7 other municipalities joined the lawsuit after heavily armed goons escorted by the National Guard marched through MacArthur Park in the heart of a bustling Latino enclave near downtown LA on July 7th. The government can now ask all the active Ninth Circuit judges to reconsider, or it can ask SCOTUS to issue a stay. We know what they're probably going to do here because SCOTUS is friendlier to Trump. The judge issued the order on July 11th saying that roving patrols of federal agents were making arrests in violation of the Fourth Amendment. I think, Manila, it's really clear that that's true, right? I mean, the Fourth Amendment protects you and me from, and undocumented people.
Unreasonable.
From unreasonable
search and seizure.
And it is unreasonable to go to be searched and seized with, basically based on the way you look, talk, dress, and whatever. Courts have ruled that repeatedly.
You're standing outside Home Depot.
And which is why they've even arrested Latino Army vets who were born in the United States and are full U.S. citizens. And they've been held for days and weeks in some cases. Yeah. So this is ethnic profiling. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. I wonder what SCOTUS is going to do here. I mean, there's the right thing, and then there's what they probably will do.
Well, I mean, the letter of the law, the Fourth Amendment specifically protects all people on this soil from the unreasonable search and seizure. Of course, that doesn't happen. Usually, I mean, you hear about this stuff every single day at every city in America, right? Where there's unreasonable search and seizure. Where they pull you over for a broken tail light, a cop, will pull you over for something like that, and then just to suddenly tell you, I sniffed something in your car, get out, and they start searching your car. They try to justify the reason, right? It's reasonable because I smelled something in your car, ergo weed or whatever. And then they,
By the way, that's totally like, even if it were true, I mean, that's completely ridiculous, right? I mean, like,
of course,
a cop's nose is not a scientific detection device. It's a nostril. And it's also like, it's your nostril. Like, if you had like a weed detecting wand that you could wave in front of and prove with GPS where it was, that would be different. But I mean, really? It's just I just thought, my nose thinks me smell the weed. What?
That's me smells the weed. Me smells the alcohol.
Yeah, it's it's like the roadside sobriety test. He wobbles a little bit, Well, who's to say? Some people wobble more than others,
right? Some people literally can't. I mean,
I passed a roadside sobriety test that I totally should not have passed. It was like they said, "Oh, recite the alphabet backwards." I'm like,
"There's no way."
Most people can't do that sober. I mean, I'm a dork, so I can do that drunk. It's just stupid test.
I can't. I could, I mean, no way, I can't do it. But this is something totally different. What we're seeing with what ICE has been doing, and this time I agree with the federal judges here on this panel, like that is unreasonable search, seizure, and detainment. Just because, like, you can't just go scooping people up and hope that you can shake out, like you're panning for gold, that you're going to shake out some criminal illegal migrant. This is unlawful. And it's just not a humane way to handle this. And if we're going to be a country of laws and what we purport to be to the rest of the world, then we can't treat people like this. We have laws and procedures. Otherwise, we turn into some banana republic that just picks up who we want, when we feel like it.
Well, that's what
it's literally banana republic shit.
That's what's happened. Yeah.
That's exactly what's happened. So anyway, I see Dr. Reese. We'll switch gears into this big conversation about more fires. We started off the year, Ted, if we recall, in 2025. The massive, massive, massive fires all over SoCal that destroyed now the most costly fires ever in the history of the United States, mostly because of all of those Louis Vuitton bags and Gucci belts and shoes that were destroyed, Ted, in those Malibu and Eaton fires, Ted. I'm kidding, because I really don't care about products. Like, I'm just kidding. But I'm just saying, that is why, all the women there with those Hermes bags, that is why, part of why the SoCal fires at the start of the new year, why the insurance claims are so high. It's not only just their homes, the home values, overinflated, by the way, but nonetheless, why the insurance claims are so high, and is because a lot of the people that have those nice houses have really nice things inside.
Well, yes, that sort of follows logically. All right,
yeah.
So
All right, let's jaws
it. On the, yeah.
Let's jaws it.
All right, so just a quick overview of the current situation with wildfires out west in particular. There's always dry conditions, but they're even drier than quote unquote normal. Humidity is very low, just 4 to 15%. And winds have been gusty, 15 to 25 miles an hour, particularly across the states of Arizona and California, and particularly in Southern California and Arizona. So the Madre fire in San Luis Obispo has burned 80,000 acres. Of course, we saw those fires in LA County back in January, like the Palisades and Eaton fires that killed at least 30 people, destroyed 18,000 buildings, and burned 57,000 acres. There's going to be about a $2.5 billion price tag on that. Right now in Arizona, the Dragon Bravo fire in Grand Canyon National Park has now grown over to 114,000 acres. It's the largest wildfire in the U.S. this year. It destroyed the historic Grand Canyon Lodge. If you are familiar with that, there's a lodge on the North Rim and the South Rim. This is the one on the North Rim, and other buildings. Containment's been reduced to 13%. Firefighting is complicated by the terrain and wind patterns, which are pretty wild there. New Mexico, the Laguna wildfires soil burn severity map shows 81% lower unburned severity. So there's not much going on there compared to before. Dry lightning and gusty winds have increased fire risks in Utah, Nevada, southern Idaho, eastern Oregon, and western Montana. Nationwide, 10,500 wildland firefighters are currently working. 35 large fires are uncontained. Last but not least, in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. In Canada, major fires include the Lower Fishing Lake fire, 554,000 hectares. That's a metric thing. West of the La Ronge, 207,000 hectares. All others listed out of control. Canada is at national preparedness level 5. 200 fires are currently burning, 97 completely uncontained, 33,000 people evacuated. U.S. air quality is plunging across the United States, particularly in the northern part, including places like New York City, where it's meant to be hazy all day today. I can smell it. I'm suffering. My eyes are watering, and my lungs are burning. And with that, take it away and bring in Dr. Reese.
All right, let's bring in our friend of the show, of course, Dr. Reese Halter. He is an award-winning broadcaster, distinguished conservation biologist, and author. His latest book that is out now is called Gen Z Emergency, and you can follow him on Twitter at Relentless Reese. And of course, go to his website, Dr. Reese, DRREESE, Dr. Reese.com. So Dr. Reese, we gotta address these wild images coming out of the Grand Canyon, what they're calling the Dragon Bravo fire. It's something like less than 10%, single digit contained. It's hundreds of square miles.
13%.
Oh, it's got up to 13 at this point. So it's hundreds of square miles that have been burned. Can you explain to us what all the professionals in the field are calling the formation of fire clouds? What are fire clouds?
Right. Good morning. Look, these fires, when a wildfire gets to a critical size, it creates its own weather, believe this or not. First of all, these little firebrands, the little embers, are some 5, 6, 8 miles in front of the firestorm. They're landing and lighting fires. These pyro clouds that form have lightning. You have dry lightning, zapping, starting fires all over the area. These are, well, we're in the fire age, is where we are. It's dry. A drought is, if you look at a drought map, it's terrifying. The world is enveloped by drought. If you're in Iran, I'm sorry, Iranians, for you. If you're in the capital city of Tehran, 10 million people, you are days, not weeks now, days away from no water. This is 10 million people. This is just one snapshot in time. The year before last, it was South Africa, a city of 3-4 million. They were within weeks of no fresh water. The heat globally, we're on a tear, just to put things into perspective, because 95, 96, 97% of the livable space on planet Earth are the ocean. The ocean we're the blue planet. The oceans are broiling. The hottest year years have been 23, 24, 25 for the oceans. The oceans drive planetary climate. To put it into some kind of perspective, I can't even fathom these numbers. 870,000 Hiroshima bombs every day worth of heat are going into our ocean from combustion. When you burn something, matter is neither created nor destroyed, rather, it's transformed, meaning that over 90% of the heat from burning coal, gas, palm oil, which is used daily by a couple billion people in China and India. Let me remind you, India has surpassed China as the most populous nation of the world, 1.4 plus billion procreating humans. They mostly use palm oil. Palm oil is 4 times, not 40%, 4 times stronger at trapping heat than fossil fuels. So palm oil, wood pellets, and fossil fuels, when they're burned, 90+% of that heat goes into the ocean. Until recently, the oceans have been storing it. So out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. It's surfacing, it's causing stratification, meaning that in the ocean, oxygen is in short supply. There are massive zones, dead zones, or oxygenless zones at the surface where animals cannot live. Now we're faced with oxygenless zones on the bottom of the ocean floor because we have marine ocean bottom heat waves lasting 6 months. Oh my God.
Dr. Reese, I remember several years back on my old RT show, we had you discuss, because you're an expert in Australia because you went to school down there and did a lot of your work down there. We covered those massive fires there a few years ago, and
Yeah.
people were really struck by the images of like scorched little koalas, and so that really
Oh,
resonated with people. Um,
yeah.
but given given the size of like fires like what we saw in Australia a few years ago, look at the horses. The fires that we saw in Australia, and now the fires that we saw at the beginning of this year across Southern California, and now these fires across like the wild west, Utah, Arizona, like just massive, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. Then you add the East Coast. What Ted said was the Canadians, they're having their own fires that are reaching the air quality in New York. Do massive fires at that scale, do they impact like marine life and ocean life too?
Yeah.
It does?
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, Canada is experiencing its second worst fire season after its worst fire season of 2023. The big concern, Ted and Manila, the really big overarch concern now, other than the obvious immediate destruction and heat, are the animals. So I've done a rough calculation. It's looking like in the last 10 years alone, this is a rough approximation, we've lost approximately 7 billion large animals all over the world, whether it's in Australia, whether it's in America, whether it's in Russia, whether it's in the Amazon, the Congo, Southeast Asia, Canada, all over the map. Now, the real concern, other than the agony of our brothers and sisters, the animals, are their role in the forests for cycling minerals, nutrients, energy, and overall health and system fitness. That is to say, the animals spread the seed. The animals have a hierarchy where they keep populations in check. the animals spread all of the fungi all over. The animals are the keepers of the forest. They have languages undeciphered, albeit they bring liveliness. They 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 are the forest. They are, if as some people say, the trees and native forests are the lungs of the planet. The animals are the veins and arteries, and the little ones, like the earthworms and the bees and the hoverflies and so many others, are the capillaries. We can't go on and even think about repairing these systems minus the animals. That's where we are right now.
Dr. Reese, we've got a viewer question for you if you
Hmm.
can answer
Sure.
for Juan Don. Juan asks, how does the melting of the glaciers play into this? Does it have an effect, negative or positive?
Yeah. Well, essentially, it has a negative effect. And I'm glad Juan Don asked that question, because what we're seeing now at the South Pole, so we're in our summer, but on the other half, they're in the heart of their winter. They have the lowest sea ice formation since observations have been taking place. The ice, whether it's the sea ice, which is, by the way, vital for the krill and the algae under the sea ice, which the krill eat. The krill, those little shrimp-like tiny little critters, they drive the entire marine Southern Ocean ecosystem, from whales to penguins to albatross to petrels to everything. The white surface, the white surface is vital, whether it's on the sea ice, whether it's at the top of the mountain, whether it's a recent snowfall, particularly at the poles and the glaciers, because it reflects the incoming light as sunlight and helps to keep the planet cool. I think it's really important for the listeners and the viewers and all of us to kind of understand that Mother Earth is just like us. That is, there's a certain temperature range which all life has to live within. And once that temperature range is pierced, like a horrible fever that moves into a pneumonia for a human, if you go beyond threshold, you die. So when we're losing this white surface, we're losing the natural ability of the planet at this moment to maintain a temperature range. Now, let's try to put this into perspective, because I think that these terms, we've scientists, my colleagues, have kind of buggered this up with these vague terms. Climate change. What the hell does that mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
Earth.
climate's always changing.
You're right,
Yeah.
right, but not a good,
If it
possibly
wasn't
not a good
changing,
term
you'd
there,
if it wasn't
Ted.
changing, you'd be on Mars.
Exactly.
Except it
So
changes there too,
it
slowly.
does too. You're right. But I just, the point is, it doesn't sound very urgent, and it doesn't really sound like anything. It sounds like a bunch of pencil neck ivory tower people sitting around shooting the breeze at coffee, wasting time, not sitting at their desk cranking out stuff, actually. Um, so I think heating. I think, it's like fire age. I think agony. Right, I think agony. I mean, the animal kingdom is agonizing, and we're part of the animal kingdom. And I think we really have to get our act together. These are very uncertain times, Ted. The Society of
Dr. Reese,
the
I gotta,
Environmental
sorry to interrupt,
Journalism.
but Dr. Reese, I gotta ask you, like,
Yep,
I mean, you and I are both, probably closer to the end of our lives than the beginning, but
right.
the point is that, like, even in a relatively short time, by the time I was probably about 30, I noticed differences. I noticed that there were fewer everything. You just,
Yeah,
if you walked in the woods, You saw fewer squirrels, fewer birds, fewer raccoons. Um, and it's
Well,
like
they're saying fewer fireflies
if you
nowadays.
100%. No,
Yeah.
they used to be crazy. There's a fewer. I mean, there's some things you see more of. There's like monospecies, right? That's a whole issue too, where some things are crazy and there's like massive invasive species. But the point is, you notice some really dramatic changes in a pretty short time if you're even mildly observant. You just notice,
Right.
wow, it used to, when I was a kid, living in the same place in southwestern Ohio, it typically snowed. The first snowfall would be around Halloween, and then you get a decent snowstorm by November. Now, if it doesn't snow at all winter long, that's not surprising in the same exact place. This is a place that used to have blizzards and 3 or 4 feet of snow.
Scary.
It's like, and then you notice the animals are gone. You look up in the air, you don't see that many birds. You hardly see any birds.
I know.
And it's like, and then then we had the pandemic reset, right? Where suddenly birds were popping up in cities like New York City that had not around, and the animals were coming back. And then a year or two later that, we ventured back out and drove them all away again. How come the cliche is that it's the frog that doesn't notice as the water's slowly getting hotter.
Yeah.
But how can we not notice? To me, it seems incredibly noticeable.
Well, that's the $64,000 question, Ted. And I think actually the simple answer, in my understanding, are the screens. I think that the addictive power of the screen, everyone has them, everyone is addicted. And it's false in that if you want to see a polar bear, you can go look at something, BBC Wild, natural or synthetic, that we have on the planet, the volatile organic compounds, and influencers in their infinite fucking stupidity, and it is stupidity, have an opinion that nothing is wrong with Earth's system. No animals missing, no fires, no, couldn't possibly be 8 billion consumptive fucking humans trying to have more every day that could upset a planet. Oh, no, no, no. And so people are in denial. And people don't read, and people have not been taught on the internet, which is still a powerful tool to cross-reference. The first thing you hear isn't gospel. Have you looked it up? No, no. And people are harried. The price of everything is going up. People are pushed, and they want, Ted and Manila, they want nirvana. The biggest question is, why is the United States of America the biggest illicit narcotics consumer? Because people
Yep.
don't want reality. Where the hell?
They don't want to feel it.
Look at the graph, ladies and gentlemen, for the cocaine consumption. Never been higher. And where is it? Mostly in the United States and then in the EU. The EU has 600 million people. We have 340 million people. Who the hell is sniffing this shit? And the answer is a lot of people. Cocaine, forget fentanyl, the poor man's drug, or crystal meth, the idiot drug. Forget that. Cocaine is expensive. What the hell? So
Yeah.
people do, and it's pathetic. I don't care what your belief is. Quite frankly, I'm an animist. What the hell is that? I believe that everything has energy. Everything, animate or inanimate. And quite frankly, I believe that the people that I love are in heaven, mostly more than I know on earth. My loved
Well,
ones are
string
upstairs,
theory says that's true.
and they're watching. They're my buds, and I respect them. And I'm not going to fuck up because I don't want trouble later. I got to cross the river Styx, and we all have to cross the river Styx. I don't want trouble, and I'm never alone. It's
Well, Dr. Reese,
anyway.
I don't know if you're
I'm one of these old farts who thinks like that, but everybody else thinks there's some deity called God watching every move. Really? Okay. Well, good luck with that. Then the logical question is, when you get to the Garden of Eden upstairs or downstairs, wherever, Saint Peter or whoever will ask you, well, you're here now. You're going to pollute. You're going to cheat. You're going to lie. You're going to burn. You destroy. Oh no. Well, what the hell are you doing on Earth doing it while you're alive? Get a
That
grip.
that's a fair criticism. So, Dr. Reese, I don't know if you can see because you're on. I know you're on your phone. On the screen, I have
Oh
video
yeah.
of melting, or I don't know. I don't know if it's I can call it melting, but it's just
Cav,
chipping off
they
of
call
whole
them
glaciers,
they call it calving or
Calving.
calving.
Yep.
Yeah.
calving. So
Yep.
that's what's happening. This is, I think, video in Patagonia. Oh, now it's on to Iceland. I was just there. So when these glaciers just calve off like that,
Mm-hmm.
does that then play a role into um directly
Yep.
into the fires that we're seeing? Is it because we're losing that white layer that would otherwise be reflecting out the sun's heat that's causing these wildfires?
Well, indirectly, yes. I mean, on a global scale, what it's doing is Earth is warming rapidly. There's not even any logical scientist who looks at anyone who looks at the graph. A smart 7-year-old can see the trend.
True.
The big concern really is drought, and it's the drought maps. South America is screwed, and they have been screwed for 3-4 years. The southwest of
Huh.
America is screwed because it is getting drier and drier. The drier it
Yeah.
gets and the hotter it gets, the more flammable everything becomes.
Yeah, it's not even. Like the effects are completely not distributed evenly at all for a
Mm.
variety of reasons, right? Topography and air currents and water currents
Right.
and all that stuff, and this even the spin of the Earth. I mean, there's just so many different things going on. So you're going to have, generally speaking, it seems like you're going to get more extreme reactions in landlocked areas
Hmm.
than in coastal
Then
areas.
the coastals?
Usually, there's exceptions, of course. The coasts have to deal with rising waters. Doctor, we have a question from Wandan also on the
It,
Rumble feed. He wants to know, assuming he's a he, how does the
No, that's what Dr. Reese answered already.
Robbie wants to know, how do volcanic eruptions factor into the
Good
scenario?
question. Well, volcanic eruptions are an interesting thing, actually. Number one, the short term effect is actually they're cooling. And that's why Earth is in a wee bit of a cool, just a little nib has come down.
It's a little
The
bit like
dust.
geoengineering, yeah.
Yeah, the dust. But overall, volcanism spews immense amounts of greenhouse CO2 and greenhouse gases that heat it up. Because before humans, imagine there was life before humans. Yeah, imagine that.
Mostly.
Uh,
Dr. Reese, I just want to point out the video that's on screen right now. So after we had that massive earthquake in
yep,
off the Russian peninsula, the
yep,
Eastern Peninsula,
yep.
that 8 point, I mean, it was almost a 9 point earthquake.
Mm,
Apparently, just overnight, a Russian
that's some volcan.
volcano in that
Mm,
area at Kamchatka has erupted for
Not
the
a
first
coincidence.
time in over 600 years.
Not a
First
cool.
eruption in
coincidence.
600 years.
Not a
Cool.
coincidence
Well,
at all.
you know, the volcanism is in my backyard. I love volcanism, and it's the inside of the planet expanding and contracting and doing what it's done for 4+ billion years.
Yeah, volcanoes like a lava zit.
Oh, they're so cool. They're so cool.
Pop
Unless
it.
you're right
Yeah,
there, they're not
yeah.
cool. They're
Oh
extraordinarily
Lord.
hot. So they have a short term effect. Volcanism is short term effect of cooling, longer term of adding CO2. And what I was going to say before humans, that was what changed our planet from hot to cold, the accumulation of these greenhouse gases. and our atmosphere that holds it in. The thing with methane and nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide is they accumulate, the atmosphere holds the gases in, and they can't escape. And that's why it gets warm. And for anybody who doubts that, for heaven's sakes, go to your car on a hot summer's day or a winter's day, open the door. You'll notice, by the way, that it's hot inside the car than outside. That's because
Always.
the sun's radiation is a short wave. It goes through glass, it hits the upholstery or dashboard,
Yeah.
and accumulates heat, re-radiates as a long wave, and long waves can't go through glass. Hence, it gets warmer inside a car or a
Ah.
glass house or a greenhouse. That's why they call it the greenhouse effect. Dumb term, because most people don't know that, and that's a shame.
Yeah, they need to do better with the marketing,
Well,
Dr. Reese.
they
That's why
used
we have
to
you.
in the 70s when climate change, global warming was considered widespread, totally accepted, non-politicized science that everyone understood, including Richard Nixon, a conservative. I remember I was in elementary school, and it was explained to us using a terrarium, and it's like, this is how it works. This is the
Cool.
greenhouse effect. It was just a given, it was just like, and you're right. We were smart 7-year-olds and we understood it.
Yeah. We used to
Ted,
have science
Manila, I want to
projects, I
leave you with
remember.
something really cool. Speaking of when we were 7 or 8, I saw the most profound thing. I was an unremarkable student because I was off in my own world, and school didn't really mostly grab me, but whatever. I had a crazy science teacher. I still think this: the best teacher in the entire primary or secondary school has to be the math teacher, because the math, most people just, it's like, what the hell is this?
That's true.
Most. So you'll get a handful that go on into science or engineering, do very well. The second most important teacher, in my opinion, needs to be the science teacher, because he or she needs to be zany, and they need to have animals, terrariums, aquariums, get the
Mm-hmm.
kids out into marshes, etc., or on the beach or wherever, forests preferably. I had a teacher, Mr. Jackson. We had a little aquarium. One day he brought in 2 piranhas, and it was a big Orinoco piranhas, big deal. And he put a glass, there were 2, and he put a glass between the 2 of them, and they smashed at each other, hitting the glass. About 4 or 5 days later, he removed the glass, and the 2 fish never crossed where where the boundary of the glass was. And I told my dad that, and my dad told me a story that I've never forgot. He said, "Son, never stop or hitting the wall. You never know when you can smash through it."
I like that.
That's true. So I've got
Thanks.
Dr. Reese's book there up on screen, Gen Z Emergency. You can go find it direct on his website, actually. Go to drreese.com, and you can check out his collection, his library of works there. Some are long reads, some are short reads, but all a good read. I think I have the majority of the books,
I
and
think
I
you do.
I
I
share them
think
with
you
my
do.
son. Um,
Oh,
because
wonderful.
I do want, I mean, we do composting. Well, you know that, Dr. Reese. You're my friend, you
Yes,
know.
you're
We do
growers, you're
composting and all that.
farmers, you're
Yeah.
urban farmers, and
So it's not
that's the
easy
wonderful
in
thing.
the suburbs, because they do a lot of, rules around what you can or
I
cannot
know.
have on your property. But all
You
you
do
can do
what
is
you can
try,
do.
like you said,
Yeah,
and
you do what
you
you
keep
can do.
smashing on the glass until maybe you break through or the glass isn't there anymore. So there you go.
Absolutely right.
Or
Dr.
judge
Good.
Reese
away puts
Halter,
you in prison.
Yeah.
or that.
Let's not go
Dr.
there,
Reese
Ted.
Halter, always appreciate your time and making science, like understandable and digestible for those of us who are not scientists. So we always
Yeah, and you
appreciate
let
that.
me
Thank you
rant.
so much.
Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you
Thank you
Always
soon.
so
All
much,
appreciate it.
right.
Doctor. Always a
Okay.
pleasure.
Ta-da.
Thank you. He's always a blast, and he does make it really easy for us to understand with, like tangible examples like the
that
car.
car explanation. So good. Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody can understand that because and it takes forever for that heat. Even if you turn on the AC and you open the windows, even that heat doesn't dissipate as quickly. I didn't know that it was considered what do you call it? Long wave?
Yep.
Long wave
Mm-hmm.
heat. I mean, I don't know the science of that stuff. That's not the world I live in, but now I understand.
Science is the world you live in.
Well, no, I don't, you know what I mean. I live in the world that exists in science, but I just want to say this fucking volcano in Russia, I can't like it just I forgot to put it on here because it literally just happened and we had Dr. Reese coming on and I'm glad that we got to it. So I want to say, okay, how do I pronounce this? Krashenin Krasheninnikov volcano. Krasheninnikov. That'd be
Krasheninnikov. That's what it is.
Krasheninnikov volcano. 600 years.
A nice place to put LA Times publishers would look good in that crater.
Ted, 600 years since this thing erupted, and Vladimir Putin knows all of the history going back 1,200 years
for sure.
So he could probably.
So obviously, yeah. I mean, like seismic areas of volcanic activity and seismic activity are intimately related, and so kind of like whenever a volcano is about to blow, there's always earthquakes that precede it. So that's
I didn't even know this.
That was that was like, by the way, I'm back.
That was the hors d'oeuvres.
Right. The 828 was nothing.
I didn't even know that they had one there.
Oh no. It's famous. It's not just a volcano either. It's a big volcano.
Like as big as the super volcano near Robbie, where it'll turn he and his family into like Pompeii.
Not yet, but it's this one's a monster. It's almost as big as Krakatoa. It's a huge one.
Wow. I mean, it never occurred to me. I guess because it hasn't erupted in 600 years, so there hasn't been news about it.
Last time, I don't remember it last time.
Well, yeah. Well, we're old, but not that old.
You're
but
right.
the super volcano near Robbie. Yeah, the super volcano near Robbie in Montana, there have been murmurings about that shit becoming the super. I mean, they think it's coming soon, that the eruption to the super volcano in where is it, Robbie? Is it
in geological terms defined soon?
Is it Robbie? Where is it? Is it at Glacier National? Where's the super volcano?
It's Yellowstone.
Oh, it's Yellowstone.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
it's in that John Cusack movie 2012.
Yeah, I mean, if y'all go on YouTube, there's actually a little documentary done by the BBC called Super Volcano. It kind of just goes over what would happen.
About that one?
Yeah, about Yellowstone going off. Because, I mean, if that happens, that fixes the global warming problem.
Well, it'll certainly put a dent in it, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to kill like half the global population through starvation, weather change.
Yeah, because it'll literally change the plume of ash that it would like distribute all around the world, like the whole, I mean, across the northern hemisphere. It was. Yeah. I've done some stories about this for RT, and that's how I got on like Volcano Watch. And I remember like 10 years ago, I did a report about some, as Robbie hates these people, the tourists that went there that went too close to where the volcano is, and they realized the land, the paved trail in that area, that the concrete or tar or whatever it was melting, and their shoes got stuck. They couldn't like really get out. Like people were having
flypaper.
They were like the tar was melting. And so I remember 10 years ago, people were saying that the super volcano at Yellowstone was going to blow because the ground was getting so hot that the tar was melting.
No one knows what's going to happen. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody knows.
No, nobody knows.
I mean,
that's crazy.
That's one of the reasons why like all this global warming, all these models, I don't put any stock into it. Weather and geology are so complicated. The human mind cannot comprehend it. And the fact that we think that we can shows how arrogant that we have become as a people. We are less than nothing.
I think at the very least, what we can do, like, the Earth didn't come with forever chemicals and PPE packaging, and the Earth didn't come that way. The least we can do is like not throw it into a landfill because
No, I agree with you there. But I mean, but saying that human beings, we have the power to destroy ourselves. We don't have the power to destroy the planet. I mean, let's just be honest. That's
we'll
not
destroy it
that's
as
not in the
we know
cards.
it, maybe, and then the Earth will regenerate and start over. Like that's
Agreed.
I
so.
mean,
Anyway, we'll leave that there.
but no,
Super
I mean,
volcanoes are fascinating to me,
no,
and I hope, Robbie, you don't get decimated. I think I'm out of the kill zone. I think Ted and I are out of the kill zone.
no, y'all will starve. Y'all will starve to death. That's what happened to y'all. So I
Oh,
mean, because
Well,
here's
not to mention the dust.
well, that's what I'm saying. Because when this thing goes off, because it's going to be all the ash, all the dust. One of the things that they know will happen is that the monsoons will fail. But what happens to 1.4 billion people in India without the monsoon? They starve to death. So that's what I'm saying. It's when this thing happens, and it will. We don't know when. It is going to be a global disaster that humankind will
sure.
realize that we are not the gods that we think that we are. We are not the
Would
masters
that
of our
be
destiny.
you think that'll be the next great extinction is the super volcano?
No, no, I think that's going to be that'll be the wake up call. I mean, me personally, I think that in the book of Revelation, I think that's the locusts from hell. I think that's where they're going to come from. But
Well, this is
there's nothing to prove that.
fascinating
But
stuff.
that's my personal opinion.
But I don't know. I think something even bigger and scarier is happening from the Eastern Russian Peninsula and
No,
this volcano, the mega quake. Like that's
I would be more
something.
worried about. I would be more worried about an asteroid or a comet smacking the planet. I think that's a more realistic issue than Yellowstone going off, at least
Really?
in the short term. Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Well, we'll leave that there. So happy Monday. Let's not die from huge comets, meteors, or asteroids, or whatever, or giant volcanoes. But, there's that. Thank you all for tuning in. That's going to do it for your Monday. I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rall. That's producer Robbie. Thanks for being here. We'll be back mañana. I might get deported for saying that, Ted. I'm brown, and I said a Spanish word. I dare you, Ice.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I would send ice to every Home Depot today if I could. Every single one.
I go to Home Depot. Don't deport me.
Home Depot. I was just there this weekend.
I wouldn't be fine.
You'll be fine.
Look at my swarthy complexion.
You'll be okay.
And my amazing Spanish accent.
You're tall and pale enough. You're not
what?
pale, but
tall and pale enough for what? To be deported?
To escape ice.
Well, I mean, they would deport you to
France. They are chubby dudes, right? Those guys.
I mean, if they deported you to France, would you honestly mind?
Of course,
but they wouldn't send Ted to France. They would if Ted got swept up in like the dragnet. They don't
South Sudan
they
for
you,
me.
Yeah, they'll send you to South Sudan or
can we deport my
prison
Paraguay.
in El Salvador?
Can we deport my manager to South Sudan and the people doing this HR training?
I was trying to not go there. Robbie, again, before I really thought about it, Robbie. I really thought about slightly betraying you and starting the show early so people can catch that. It would have been a huge
I wanted you to record it just so that we'd have the option to show it.
I couldn't record
with Robbie's full consent.
I couldn't record because we were ready to go on air, and all I had was the live option.
Okay, we got to explain what's going on. Yeah,
Robbie, for a second time in under a year, lampooned is a better word. Harpooned.
Eviscerated his boss on the phone. He's on the phone with his boss, and he's basically like, "You're a moron. You're a retard. You're my biggest fucking problem. I can't. The reason I can't get my job done properly is because of you. Just get the fuck out of the way." I don't think he dropped any F-bombs, but otherwise, all the rest of it's accurate.
But I was cringing, and I was like, "No, Robbie, don't stop."
He called her a retard to her face.
He literally called her a retard, and I was
maybe not to her face because it was on the phone, but anyway,
on the phone, but still, and this is. The manager was on Robbie's ass.
Retard.
The manager was on Robbie's ass because they're making him do like man sensitivity training or something.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is actually a good topic, right? And we should do it. If anybody knows an expert on toxic masculinity, I mean an academic expert on the theory of toxic masculinity, please get in touch with Manila or myself or Robbie, and
Or
we'll
put
get you
here.
on the
Well,
show.
here's the inbox.
So
You can
basically,
do-
short version, then we'll let you all go. So Robbie at his day job had he's forced to basically take toxic cultural revolution style struggle session, toxic masculinity training regime,
Clockwork Orange
during
shit.
which he has to admit all the things that the negative masculine, toxically masculine qualities he allegedly has, purportedly. And basically, I watched it, and there's this psychologist who probably should have their license revoked by the APA, who basically says toxic masculinity is basically where if you're a man and you do this and you do that, if you're aggressive, if you speak in certain tones, blah, blah, blah. That's not what toxic masculinity is at all. Toxic masculinity, men are the victim of toxic masculinity. Boys are the victims of toxic masculinity. And the perpetrators of toxic masculinity are men, women, and society in general. That basically tells boys that they can't be sensitive, can't express themselves emotionally, can't cry, don't be a pussy, don't be a wimp, don't be a fag, that kind of stuff. And like basically it causes men to stifle their emotions and they can't express themselves in public. Ironically, what feminists have done is they've now hijacked the one time that there was sympathy for men in culture, and they've hijacked it, flipped it around, and weaponized it against men in their own form.
Stop mansplaining to me, Ted.
That is toxic. Literally, these horrible, like, feminists, not all feminists are horrible. These particular types of horrible feminists.
Brand.
They literally are engaging in toxic masculinity themselves by weaponizing toxic masculinity against its victims. It's disgusting.
So, right. To say that you can't have your natural
and that being masculine male is inherently toxic.
Right.
That's not what toxic masculinity is at all.
But well, so that's we're considering doing maybe a premium episode, Ted. I don't know. Maybe if we find
we'll do something.
Maybe we find a shrink or some sort of expert to talk about that. I'm pro dude. I'm a boy mom. So people know I'm not a hashtag me too, hashtag believe all women. I'm not that. And they weaponized the hashtag toxic masculinity against people because the social media thing against males.
Well, I would say that in keeping with what Dr. Reese said about climate change being a stupid term, toxic masculinity ended up being easily hijackable because of the way it sounds. It was academics aren't very good at this.
It's the way the term he's a narcissist or she's a narcissist, the way that's been hijacked. That's not clinically how it's defined.
True.
So just because you're vain doesn't mean you're a narcissist.
And you think
wrong.
the song is about you.
Right. That's right. So I don't know if you guys know anybody. There's the email TMI Show question at yahoo.com.
Yep. And please today listen to Dave Edmonds. I'll be happy you did.
Before he goes.
If you like rock music.
Do y'all want me to do a ad or just got one that popped up when I'm already here?
Yeah, put it on. Let's do it.
Sure.
Okay. Hold on just 1 second. All right, outdoor crew. If you're into fishing, camping, or getting off the grid, meet your new best friend, the Hunter Orange 25 quart cooler from Caddis Sports. This isn't your average cooler. It's rotomolded for max durability, bear proof, that's what I need, and 20% lighter than other brands. So it's easy to haul where you're going deep back country or just setting up at the dock. You'll get up to 3 days of ice retention thanks to thick, high-performance insulation. That means cold drinks, fresh food, and fewer ice runs, whether you're chasing muttons or offshore or posting up at a campsite. Best part, it's 40 to 50% cheaper than the big-name coolers, but still built to perform season after season. And like all Caddis Sports name brand gear, It's proudly made in the USA. Use code RUMBLE at checkout for 10% off of your order today. That's caddissports.com. Go grab your Hunter Orange 25-quart cooler and keep your next adventure ice cold.
Oh, that's cool. That is a new advertiser.
I want that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Then that's something I would buy.
Yeah.
So
That's
was that fast enough for you, Ted?
No.
No, but it
Deal
fit
with it.
perfectly with all this like nature talk we were
True,
doing. Now I
true.
feel like I want to like go camping somewhere with that Caddis cooler. So,
Yep, that's true.
all right, so email us, you guys, if you know of somebody you can recommend that might be a good, expert on the subject of toxic masculinity, how they define it, whether it's a shrink or, some kind of sociologist or anthropologist, whatever, somebody that can actually speak to that topic. We would greatly appreciate any leads. If you know anybody, let us know. Email us right there, TMI Show question at yahoo.com. So have a great Monday, guys. Let's start off the week good by not dying in super volcanoes. I think that's a good way to end it. Adios, amigos. Bye.
Bye.